What if I told you that Xanax would have ruined my grandmother's life? That Prozac would have destroyed my mother's marriage? That all those anxiety apps on your phone might be making things worse? I'm Ruth. I'm 85 years old, and I've been anxious most of my life. But here's the thing. I didn't know that word anxiety until I was 67 years old. We had other names for it, and maybe that made all the difference.
Ruth, I've been struggling with anxiety for years. Sometimes I can't even leave the house. My therapist says it's generalized anxiety disorder with panic features. I tried calling my therapist this morning, but she's on vacation. The Meditation Act wants $60 to renew. How did people in your generation handle this? I mean, you must have had some people who struggled.
Oh, honey, we had it. Lord knows we had it. My mother called it the worries. My grandmother called it nervous constitution. Mrs. Henderson next door had the vapors every Thursday like clockwork. But let me tell you about 1963. That's when I learned what having nerves really meant. I was 32 years old, 3 kids under 10. Bobby was 9, Susan was 6, and little Carol just 3. My husband, Harold, worked nights at the Chrysler plant. It was a Tuesday morning. I was washing breakfast dishes when suddenly I couldn't breathe. My heart was racing like I'd run a mile. My hands shook so bad I dropped Harold's favorite coffee mug. I was absolutely convinced I was dying. Right there on my kitchen floor, 3 babies in the next room watching Captain Kangaroo.
That sounds exactly like my panic attacks. What did you do?
Well, I called Dr. Morrison. He made a house call. They did that then, took one look at me, and said I had housewife syndrome. Prescribed me Valium, little yellow pills. Mother's little helpers, they called them. But I watched too many neighbors get lost in those pills. Mrs. Kowalski down the street started taking them for her nerves and ended up taking them for everything. By 1965, she couldn't get through a day without them.
So what did you do instead?
I found other ways. Had to. 3 kids weren't going to raise themselves while I sorted out my nerves. First thing I discovered was the bread. Sounds simple, doesn't it? But when the worries came, that's what we called them, the worries. I needed bread. Push, fold, turn, push, fold, turn. The rhythm of it, the purpose of it. Your mind can't spiral when your hands are building something to feed your family. Then there was visiting. Every Tuesday at 10, we'd gather, 5 or 6 women from the block. We didn't call it a support group. We called it coffee. That's me. That's Dorothy. That's Patricia. She had the worst nerves of all of us. Her husband came back from Korea different. We never said PTSD. We just said he had the war still in him.
You talked about mental health over coffee?
We talked about everything. Patricia would say, I had one of my spells yesterday. And Dorothy would say, oh, honey, I had 3 last week. Then we'd swap remedies like recipes. The church ladies had a prayer chain. Really, it was a phone tree for anyone having a hard time. You'd call Sister Mary Margaret, say you needed prayers, and within an hour, 3 women would be at your door with casseroles and company. We didn't isolate, couldn't afford to. When the worries got bad, that's when you needed people most. Now, we were middle-class lucky. The women at the factory where Harold worked, they took those pills because they couldn't afford to have spells. My cousin Marie in Detroit, she had to find different ways. She'd ride the bus just to be around people, volunteer at the hospital when her nerves got bad. Everyone found their own version. Here's what nobody talks about. We didn't try to eliminate anxiety. We just refused to let it be the main character in our story. It was a background actor, not the star. The worries were there, sure, but so was the laundry, the dinner, the kids' homework, the neighbor who needed help with her groceries. Don't think it always worked. The week after President Kennedy was shot, nothing helped. I took those yellow pills for 3 days straight. Couldn't knead, couldn't visit, couldn't move. But then Dorothy came over with her kids, and suddenly I was making lunch for 8 people, and the worries had to move aside for the work.
But you didn't have therapy or medications that actually worked, or even the language to describe what was happening in your brain.
No, but we had something else. We had rituals that grounded us, bread that needed baking, gardens that needed tending. We had work that mattered, children to raise, neighbors to help, and we had people who showed up without being asked because checking on each other was just what you did.
I have Headspace for meditation, Calm for sleep stories, Zenvelo for mood tracking, BetterHelp for therapy. I take Lexapro daily, Xanax for emergencies. I do yoga 3 times a week, journal every morning, and practice gratitude before bed. I've named my anxiety. I understand the neuroscience behind it. I have all the tools. So why do I feel more anxious than ever? Why does it feel like my whole life revolves around managing this thing?
Can I ask you something? When you feel anxious, what do?
I stop what I'm doing and try to calm down. Deep breathing, the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding technique. Maybe take my emergency medication if it's really bad.
So you stop everything to focus on the anxiety?
Well, yes. My therapist says I need to sit with my feelings and process the emotional experience. I remember my first real panic attack, junior year, before my organic chemistry final. I literally hid in a bathroom stall for 3 hours. Security had to come get me.
And what happened?
I failed the exam, had to retake the class, cost me thousands in extra tuition. Sometimes I wonder if I just channeled that panic into studying harder instead of hiding.
Now you're understanding. The energy was there, you just didn't know how to use it yet. Come here, I want to show you something. When anxiety comes now, and it still does every day, I don't stop. I redirect. Watch my hands. The anxious energy goes into the circular motion of cleaning this plate. The racing thoughts follow the water down the drain. My hands are busy, but we're still talking. The anxiety is still there, but it's not in charge.
You're using the anxiety as fuel for the task.
Exactly. Think of it like untamed horsepower in a car. You can let it idle and overheat, or you can put it in gear and go somewhere. We couldn't afford to sit with our feelings, honey. We had to keep them moving. Like a hyperactive child, you don't tell them to sit still. You give them something to do. I'll say this for your generation. At least you can talk about it without shame. We whispered about nerves like they were contagious.
So you're saying instead of trying to eliminate anxiety, you just gave it a job to do?
Now you're getting it. We couldn't Google anxiety management or download an app. We had to live alongside it. We made it wash dishes, tend gardens, bake bread, help neighbors.
But what about when there was nothing to do?
There's always something to do, always someone who needs something. And if there truly wasn't, well, that's when you prepared for when there would be. We canned vegetables, mended clothes, wrote letters. Anxiety hates purposeless waiting, but it loves purposeful preparation.
This changes everything. My anxiety could actually be useful?
Not just useful, essential. The most anxious women were the most reliable. We were so worried about things going wrong, we prevented them from going wrong. Here's what 85 years has taught me. Anxiety is just your body preparing you for something. Our generation couldn't afford to waste that preparation. And here's what nobody understood. The most anxious women were also the most reliable. We were so worried about things going wrong, we prevented them from going wrong. This was my mother's bread recipe. She gave it to me the day after my first spell. Said, "Ruth, when the worries come, make bread. Can't worry properly when you're feeding people." She was right. You can't spiral when you're spiral kneading dough.
I still have anxiety. It didn't magically disappear, but now I redirect it. The bread became my signature move. When anxiety spikes, I bake Ruth's recipe. I've given away 47 loaves to neighbors I'd never met before. Turns out, "Hi, I made too much bread" is the perfect conversation starter. Started a Worry Wednesday coffee group in my building. We don't call it group therapy, we just call it coffee. But we talk about our spells, our worries, our nerves, whatever you want to call them. Sarah from upstairs has panic disorder. Ming from next door calls it overwhelming thoughts. Janet, the retired teacher at the end of the hall, says she's had the nervousness since 1978. The anxiety isn't gone, but it's productive now. It connects me instead of isolating me. It makes bread instead of making me hide. It cleans my apartment instead of paralyzing me on the couch.
Every generation thinks they invented anxiety. The Victorians called it hysteria. My mother's generation called it nervous exhaustion. Yours calls it anxiety disorder. But it's the same human experience. Same racing heart, same spiraling thoughts, same fear that something terrible is about to happen.
The difference is, your generation made anxiety work for them instead of against them.
We didn't have the luxury of stopping life to deal with our feelings. So we made our feelings part of life. Anxious energy became productive energy. Worried thoughts became problem-solving thoughts. Nervous hands became busy hands. You know what the real difference is between then and now?
What?
We were too embarrassed to make anxiety our identity, so it had to find other ways to express itself, through service, through creation, through connection. The next time anxiety visits you, don't ask it to leave. Ask it to help with the dishes.
Or scrub the bathroom. Or organize that closet. Or prepare tomorrow's lunch. Or check on your neighbor who's been quiet lately.
In my day, we'd say someone had nervous energy and mean it as a compliment. It meant they got things done.
Maybe we need to bring that back. Anxiety as untamed horsepower, not a disability.
Remember, anxiety has been around forever. Every generation just finds new ways to dance with it. Our way was to make it useful.
Next time you feel anxious, ask yourself, what would this energy build if I let it?